Hello everyone, welcome to another commentary. This time it's about Mortal Kombat 1 on 12. God, I called it MK1. I'm disappointed with myself. I'm still gonna be throwing it to MK12 videos, and just generally, it's so much more convenient and it's just so much fucking easier. And I ain't changing. I'm not giving in to the MK1 name. But yeah, today's another video where we just talk about with some Armageddon gameplay in the back. This time I pre-recorded it so I wouldn't be distracted by it. But yeah, we're talking specifically about the gameplay because you got the online stress test that came out. I did get a code for it, actually. That's all I had to do was like fucking apply, and I already had like a WB thing for whatever I had to get for MK11, I think. And I got the code, and then I realized they don't have it for Switch. Switch is not an option, which is already not a good sign for that port. It's really not. I mean, with MK11, there was like very little news about the Switch port. It took ages to actually see it, so yeah, it doesn't surprise me, but it's never a good sign. I don't know another game that offers a Switch port, but is also next gen exclusive. That is insane to me. I don't know how they're going to get that to work. The answer is they probably won't, but we'll have to find out. So yeah, I haven't played this rest. I just gave the code to my girlfriend, but it's tricky because I went into this thinking, you know what, the gameplay's going to be fine. The game's going to be solid, right? My issue is the fact that it's the story stuff with the reboot or the lore changing the characters for the worse. And just poor designs and whatnot. But no, the gameplay is looking real bad as well. And firstly, there's the stages, and I've talked to death about stages, so I'll get this out of the way first. As I feared, there are no interactables. They are just backgrounds again. Like MK9, they're just backgrounds. Like the first game as well. Every other game has some interactive aspect of a stage. Genuinely pathetic that they don't have that. Again, this is a sign, and I'll point out many things where it feels like we're regressing again. We're going backwards. I mean, it's actually called Mortal Kombat 1. Of course we're going backwards. But yeah, the only thing I could praise, and this is genuinely my favourite thing that I've seen so far of this game, is the fact that in the Cage Mansion, a Roomba sometimes just comes across the screen. Like, it'll come from the background onto like the stage. You can't interact with it, but it does like clean up any blood it goes over. I think that's quite charming. It's just a bit of a shame there's nothing going on. You can't interact with anything. They're very pretty looking stages. It beats MKX at least, because MKX stages were just dull as fuck. But at least MKX had stage interactions, so it's rough. Now I know there's a portion of people who don't like stage interactions, and I still think that's a small amount, because you don't see it complained about much. Because in the grand scheme of things, it's a minor thing. The stage interactables are in X11, but I think 11 they were really good, because you have some for like in corners of stages, so you can get out of them. I think that's a good. Wait, they're not that effective because you can easily counter them, but I think the option to have that is good. And also, you just have stuff like weapons in the stage that you pick up and just slam. And MK11, it feels like it's not just this really minor thing, because they can do a lot of damage because they're usually crushing blows. That's another thing that's gone. Crushing blows. The only sign of X-rays is in the fatal blows, because they have some X-ray stuff, which does look better than just a jam flying everywhere anytime someone does anything in the fatal blows. But it does mean the animations last longer, which that's not good. Although I think it's two things. So the cameo does something, then the player does something. So actually, I think it's like two. There's two parts to the fatal blow rather than three. So overall, it probably a bit shorter, but I could be wrong. I haven't timed it. But I am disappointed to see Crushing Blows gone, because I genuinely think they're a fantastic feature. The whole incorporating X-rays thing, I think that was much better than making a super move. Like much, much better. They were one of the few gimmicks that I have enjoyed in MK. One of the few in terms of modern MK. And I enjoyed it because all the different requirements and stuff, you'd be rewarded for doing certain things, and there was a reason to do different moves and stuff. Because a lot of MK games, you have your moveset, right? But a lot of strings aren't even optimal, because you just do another string that serves the same purpose. But with Crushing Blows, like this one has a Crushing Blow, so I should do this in certain situations. Otherwise, I'll do this string, you know? And there's various things, because they do various stuff. There's numerous ones. You got ones for throws. Some don't even have ones for throws. And like, that's all dependent on like other factors of the character. So like it balances out, you feel? And balancing is another thing I think we've gone back on. I do think MKL was, by leaps and bounds, the most balanced game in the franchise. Even initially. Even at launch, it was the most balanced one. Although even then, it didn't feel particularly balanced, because you had OP stuff like Scorpion Spear being a mid for some reason. Same for his teleport. I nerfed it so that you can just duck it, which is so much better. Then there's also Garrus, who I still feel is very strong. I don't think that really stopped, but he did get nerfed a lot. And there are various other things, I'm sure. But overall, it was very balanced for an MK game. And when you come to the full version, I think it's quite balanced, you know. I really do think that everyone's optimal at this point. There's definitely some that are noticeably better, you know, look at it competitively, but you can pick any character and you're not at a disadvantage, basically. And I like that. I do like that. MK9 was broken, MKX was broken, and MK12 looks to very much be the same. It could arguably be worse. I think in it right now, it's already more broken than MKX, because X like 11 had a good chunk of patches. So the final state of X isn't like broken or anything, but I would say it's not too balanced. And 9's just broken. It's just, that's all I can say about that. And this comes from the cameos. And this is the main thing I want to talk about, again, cameos. But my fears of them have been confirmed. You know, firstly, the roster shit, you know, there's only 16 cameos, some of which will just be ones that are regularly playable. And then you're going to have to pay for more cameos. What a joke. What an actual joke. That a quarter of the cameo roster could be known as 21 with the Kombat pack. A quarter of that you need to pay for. They're fucking assist centers. They're supposed to be a good lot of them. And I feel like they take away from the regular characters' movesets. I mean, firstly, we've already got a smaller roster. We've lost a guy on the roster. We only have 24 now, which is very small, but it's not a good sign. We've been wanting the roster size to increase, because guess what? We've had 24 characters as a bare minimum since 2004. It's not acceptable to have such a small amount. And then they had the goal to think that, oh yeah, we can add guest characters now. You have not repped like half of your franchise. What do you mean? So yeah, I'm very annoyed by the roster situation. From leaks, there's a lot of 3D era characters, although they feel like the safest picks possible. You pick the ones that are already very popular and you shouldn't have ignored in the first place. But yeah, good enough for finally doing that. The game where everyone's lore is changing, so they're just going to do it to fucking ruin the characters that we love. So how fun. How fun. Of course, the beta doesn't have everyone. It's only got 4 characters, 2 stages. The 4 characters we have, I have issues with. Kenji, I think, is fine. He looks fucking slow as hell. And generally, there is a pacing issue with the characters. Not just the game in general, it's not a character thing. But the gameplay is very slow. It's slower than MK11, which I personally didn't think was like slow. Like compared to other MK games, yes, but it wasn't really like bad design choice I found. But this game's even slower, and this was a big complaint of MK11. So they've doubled down on it, and it just looks boring. It really does. But yeah, before I get into like the specifics of those characters, the cameos basically they are like the MK11 assists from time to time, but you're forced to use them. Which I thought they'd at least be a bit more than that, but they're not really. I mean, they have a throw animation, and they do half of your fatal blow, and they have their own like it's basically a classic-esque fatality. But aside from that, there's just 4 moves, depending on which direction you do, which is just like the assist in MK11 times the time. So really, this isn't much. You know, like MK11 had these assists, which was the entire roster and Sector and Cyrax. So this is hardly even a new feature for one. For two, 16 cameos is pathetic. Because they were talking about how like, oh yeah, the playable ones, the fully playable ones, there'll be cameos too. And I thought, oh, that's actually quite good. Because then you have your 24 characters who you can also select as cameos on top of the bonus 16, giving you 40 cameos. But no, it is 16. Some of them are just the ones already on the base roster. So you're not even repping the characters well. It is pathetic. It is a terrible gimmick done abhorrently. I genuinely don't think they could have made it worse. And no one likes it from what I've seen. I have not seen a soul praise the cameo mechanic. You go to any video to stress test, and people going complaining about the cameos, whether that be because they're a cheap gimmick, whether that be because they're broken, or whether that be because it's fucking lame. It is lame to have your characters as cameos. And when I mentioned they have their own throw, they do their own fatal blow animation, that just takes away from the fully playable characters because they always take up that. Your forward throw, not a single character is a forward throw anymore because it's just the cameo that does it. It is miserable, and so that's all cosmetic for one, and because you're throwing in the gimmick, you're forcing it in. Also, they do the breakers. Again, that's just an animation thing, which again takes away from what the playable character can do. But again, I guess they're trying to make it feel like the cameos are more involved, which is just sad if you need to resort to that. The fact that you'll have to have cameos. There's not a single option, no mode, nothing like that where you can't have cameos because they are built in like that. That is disgraceful. I genuinely don't know what they're thinking. I really don't. But yeah, it's just fucking sad. And I mentioned they were broken, and this is where it gets real dumb. Because you just call them in with like a push of a button, like with the MK11 tower assist, which by the way, was tower assist with literal buffs. You know, they should not be something in a regular fighting game, in a regular mode. They will just jump in, do that thing. Because they just jump in, right? You can't punish that. They just gain a free extra few abilities. And then they go away. And there's only a cooldown that just charges on its own. So yeah, there's a cooldown, but you're not punished for using your cameo because it's just free hits. And you can look it up. Liu Kang has a really easy 52%, I think, corner combo where he just spams the same couple inputs, then uses Sonya, who does like this air attack, which just extends it to do it again, and sends Sonya in again, and just do it again. And that's 52%. That is the easiest 52% combo I have ever seen in this entire franchise's history. Look, this is Armageddon Fudge. It is much harder to get 50% in that. Some characters, you can't even achieve it without doing infinites, right? Like there is no way it should be that easy. Meanwhile, you've got Katana who has to pull off like 11 fucking billion hit combos, just to get like 37%, right? The damage scaling is not on. Like certain characters would do less damage than others in MK11. People would complain about that, but people don't really understand the fact that they have different toolkits, so they're not just combo based anymore. Again, it's a balancing thing, but this absolutely isn't balanced Because if you just pair a character with the right cameo, you can just do a shitload of damage without even using a meter. It's dumb. It's really dumb. And, the cameo thing of offering variety, even though there's only 16 of them, so not much variety, in terms of, like, mix and matching your character and your cameo. And I was like, I'm all for that feature, until I learned that the roster actually sucks. And here's the thing. With how they work, just being some extra abilities, there will only be certain optimal ones that pair with characters. Like Liu Kang, the best one for him, unless there's another, even more broken cameo. Because we only seen 3, right? Like there's going to be so much more brokenness that they would actually have to rework how this entire gimmick works for it to be balanced. I genuinely think it is that broken that they cannot solve the issue in how they currently play. They would need to just, from the ground up, change how they did cameos. So I really don't think it's going to be a balanced game. But yeah, there's not going to be that variety because you're just going to pick the one that blends best with your character. So it makes every character feel like a duo character, because right now picking Liu Kang means you've also got Sonya just with you, because you're not going to pick anyone else. If you don't pick Sonya with Liu Kang, you're not getting that free 50 damage combo. It is insane. It is really insane how they've also work. And I guess the stresses are just to test the online service. So I don't know how they're going to respond to that. If they do, there's various other things I can complain about as well. Like, they're kind of just the main thing. The forefront. Because that's their main gimmick, that's the thing they advertise. And it sucks. No one's a fan. I don't know who it's trying to appeal to. Like I don't like MK as just a regular 2D fight. I feel we evolved from that very quickly. Like I look at this 3D game, But even then, MK11, I feel does a really good job. And even thing that I know most people prefer X and even 9. And this game feels like it's trying to blend all of that together. And even a bit of Armageddon, because you have the aerial combos, which I do like. I do think the aerial combos were done quite well from what I've seen, because each character has their own unique aerial combos. I like that. That's definitely something I really appreciate, having air combat back. But that's about it. In terms of praise for the mechanics, because I don't like any other change. I think every other change has been inferior. Like the meter system. Breakers also return, a feature added in Deception, and it became a mainstay, but they did fuck around with it. MK Bizarre meter system, which turned Breakers into part of that. Then MK9X had that meter that's back now, which I really hate. I think it's a terrible feature that's highly overrated. Where you have the same meter for amplifying in your defense stuff. 2 meters for a breaker, 1 to amplify, sometimes it's 2 to amplify, and then 3 is a super move, right? It sounds good on paper, but trust me, it's not fun. I did prefer MK11's meter, which again is probably a hot take, where you have the offensive and defensive sides and they just charge automatically. That's much less annoying. Also, they had breakaways, which again, hot take, but these are better because you could counter them. Breakers, you break through the combo, which works in a 3D in the 3D games, because you only had 3 per match. There was no meter to just recharge them, and I think realizing that 12 is made it so you need 3 bars to get a meter. Now, I haven't really picked up on how fast they the meter charges up. But what I will say is that definitely runs the risk of just not having enough defensive options then. If it's too hard to charge up a breaker, when you're also using that bar to amplify moves and shit. Like, are you ever going to get to your breaker? Because the breaker is just a get out of jail free thing, right? So just having 3 of those available per fight was always a good system, and they never should have changed it. But hey, we had a meter system, so yeah, gotta be a generic fighting game, have a meter. It was a massive shame, and I don't think this solves the problem. I think breakaways solve the problem. If you're going to do a meter system, you have to breakaway because you can counter that, or at least get a few hits in, you know? Like, there's, like, armor-breaking moves, and if you do them when a breakaway happens, you interrupt it, either to just do a final damaging hit, or to actually extend the combat, because they tried to break away. I thought that was really cool, and now it's just gone, right? Like, why? Why? Also, the icon to, like, in the size of the screen to indicate, like, if you done a counter, if it's a reversal, whatever. This was a thing in MK11 too, but it was very small. MK12 is very noticeable, and it's got a black box. You can't miss it. And I feel like if I was playing that pop-up, I would be constantly distracted by it. It is way too large. So that should be removed, I feel. Like, of all things, they chose that and Fatal Blows to stay from 11. Which doesn't make sense to me. I think Fatal Blows are much better than X-Rays, but you brought back the X-Ray meter. So it's so weird how they just mesh together a bunch of mechanics from past games, and none of it works, I feel, except air combat. Like, I don't feel like any of it's for the better. It's just change for the sake of change. And you're pulling in various things trying to appease fans, and it doesn't work if you just mesh it together like that, I feel. I just think it's very poor. Another thing is no variations or anything, which I didn't like X's variation system because you're locking away like fundamental basic moves and variations. It's more varied than 11 because it does feel like 3 different movesets per character. I respect that, but I just don't like that. Fighting Stars was better. 3 movesets in one, you know, that you swap between. But 11, I think it's quite fine. You select your special moves. The only problem is you'll just pick whichever are optimal. Like most things have like 1 ideal variation, maybe 2. But I still think it's a fun system to get a mix and match that, and I prefer it to just, oh, well, you lose half your moveset depending on which variation you pick. It's just on top of your base moveset. Which I like. The only problem is you make a bunch of special moves per character, and so many of them are just useless and no one uses. So 12, it seems to just gone on variations, or else we would have seen them this game, obviously. As well as customization, because you pick a card and you just go straight to the cameos. There's no like variation selection thing, which is very concerning, because again, I feel like you're removing another thing, which I've gone through MK9. I know what it's like to have this franchise just remove a bunch of stuff they were adding over the past decade. And I feel it's going to happen again. Like with each reboot they do this, I guess. And I'm really not a fan of that. I don't think they're a perfect system, but I think they're one you improve upon. You don't remove. But again, I guess cameos are taking that place, because which I want you to say, you just get 4 extra abilities. It's like you select your 3 special moves in MK11, you know? Like, what a lazy feature. Like genuinely the most pathetic thing I've seen a fighting game do. I really can't stress enough how much I fucking hate that system. So yeah, the characters themselves, Kenshi feels so as fuck, but I do appreciate how he has Sento as a stance, which this is from MK versus DC, right? You'd have like Deathstroke and Baraka. They would have a stance where they pull out their weapon and they just get different combos with it. So it's not just like a stance where you press a button, you do a certain thing. You just get a different moveset. It's like the remnants of 3D era Fighting Stars, which I think is cool. It's not as good as Fighting Stars, obviously, but it just kind of highlights how Fighting Stars were the future of this franchise, and they just regressed again. But yeah, it's cool to see. But boy, is he slow. And I also don't like Kenshi's new character being a Yakuza member. That's just goofy as fuck. Oh, it's Japanese, so. But yeah, his moveset seems fine. It's fine, I at least think about. Katana, again, I think is fine, but it doesn't do as much damage compared to other characters. I just kind of, it's like, not that her damage is broken, just that other character's broken. Sub-Zero, I think, is just dog shit. I think they butchered his moveset. And 11, his moveset was already really annoying, you know. His slide, he just pulls out a spear always. That's not an amplified move. His amplified move just gives him armor. which will make the slide even more annoying to counter. I don't like that. I don't like amplifying moves for defensive purposes. Like they are the offensive abilities, and the other stuff is defensive, I thought. And I'm just going against that, I guess. So, like, clearly they're not, like, focusing on, you know, your amplifying move to extend stuff, because they're just trying to have that as a base meterless thing. And I really don't like that. I really don't like that. If you're gonna that was one of the things I like about the NRS games, the ability to amplify moves, and I feel like it's just gotten worse this game. Other things is I don't like his special moves. He has one where it's just unblockable and just gives you like a partial freeze. That seems really annoying. That looks really annoying. I don't need to play the game to know that will annoy me and many others, I'm sure. The only thing I really like is that like he sends like an ice clone and slides it towards you, like how he would a shadow clone. I like that as a reference. I don't like how they act like Noob and Bihan are the same person, though. In the sense that Bihan, like when he becomes Noob, that's just a corrupted version of himself. That's not him, but Bihan's just a villain now, I guess. And that really does reflect in the gameplay. You can't ignore that, because he says like the goofiest shit, like when he wins around, he says, "Die like my father." Like, who wrote this? Like what fucking child wrote Bihan's lines? He is the most pathetic character, I think. Like, how do you take him seriously? How am I supposed to? This guy had an entire spin-off game, and you butchered him from a single movie, and now this game. It's just sad. It just really is sad. To see what's being done with these characters. I wasn't even too keen on originally, which is why I'm so concerned with the 3D character show, because they're my babies. I fucking love the 3D characters, right? I don't want them back. I don't want them back because now we're in a time where everyone's lore is changing and it's just getting ruined. So I don't want them back for that. Like, I especially in Atari, I'm very scared that she'll just be a villain now because all vampires are evil. It's definitely a concerning time, I feel. Now Liu Kang, I told her how fucking broken he is. But even then, his special moves are annoying. And this goes for a lot of characters, because I mentioned the slide. You know, like their special moves, they're taking these iconic classic moves and changing them. He doesn't have the bicycle kick anymore. Well, he technically does. But what it is like these spinning kicks, which looks cool, but you want to know what that is? Kung Lao's whirling kicks. Those are the whirlwind kicks that Kung Lao had in Deadly Alliance and Armageddon. The moves that Boraicho taught him, which is like the same art of that Boraicho like taught Liu Kang the bicycle kick, because they're these long-winded kicks, you know, but they're not the same. And Liu Kang here just does the whirlwind kicks where he swirls around. And yeah, that's literally Kung Lao's move that he hasn't had since Armageddon, which is a shame because it is cool. And that's just replaced the bicycle kick now. And I hate that. That is really fucking lame. And also, like, Liu Kang is just terrible animation. Like, his back throw, like, he explodes your heart somehow. Which, that's a bit OP. And, like in terms of the character, like, lore scaling, you go do goofy fucking moves in gameplay. Like, every single super move and every single, like, crushing blow, you killed a motherfucker, right? Like, you just die. In these fights, but just exploding the heart in a throw, that's just way too goofy. I really don't like that. Who are nitpicking, but that's just dumb. That just really is dumb, and not in a fun way. In terms of the violence and like the fatalities, I think they've gone back a bit, which is a good thing, by the way. I think that is a good thing compared to MK11. They feel less over the top. The cameo fatalities are fine, because they are just class fatalities, you'll do a thing. Like, the most brutal ones, like Kano's heart rip, because it's like, oh, wow, that's a very realistic heart. But it ends there. You ended a killing blow. Which is why classic fatalities were so much better than current fatalities. Like, they're still over the top, like the regular ones. And I've only seen one for each character. I don't know if that's just because the second fatalities are always locked in the NRS games, so I guess they're locked in this. Or is it a matter of they only have one fatality because cameo, again, makes up for the other half? Because if that's the case, then we better be dogging on the game for that. Because Daylance gets a ton of shit for just having one fatality. So I'm not going to stand if that's the case, and we're just going to accept that. Because I don't care personally. I think one's plenty. I don't think we need two. But if we're going to complain about Day Alliance for doing that, then, you know. And also Sub-Zero's fatality is an anime reference. Just fuck off. Honestly. Like, be honest, the lamest character. Like, he's already getting memes so much in the same he was when he was Noob. Like, you can't take him seriously. Especially when I try and make him this, like edgy villain. Like, get out. Like, I might have a new least favorite character, because Kano's not around to piss me off. So I think it's just Bihan's job now. I'm just really not a fan of the dialogue, the character designs, the gameplay, the stages, because they're not interactable. The cameo system is such a cheap gimmick, everyone agrees. I have nothing to look forward to with this game. If I want to play a modern MK game, I'm just going to play MK11 until its servers inevitably die. Because I genuinely do think that's by far the best 2D MK game. 2D MK is not for me, I've realised. But I can at least enjoy a lot of games, except MK9. I can't enjoy that one. But MK11, I feel had a great. It's some great stuff. Like the core gameplay, everything surrounding it is terrible. The story, the roster's not terrible, in the sense that like you have that quantity of 37 characters. That's the most in a game that's not Armageddon. But it's still like it should have been bigger. You should have had better picks. You know, should have been more variety. But like you take the MK side, and it's like that's not terrible. It's not terrible. You know, they make do with it. And in terms of gameplay, you have plenty of options there. But I mean, yeah, like crushing blows. I liked all their gimmicks really, except like the defenses of like the rolls, the flawless blocking, how you could mute your camera. I mean, it's like most people didn't learn how to do that. And now flawless blocking just went ship downs in MK12, which again you're taking away something, but I think that's fine. I think flawless blocking should just be that, so I don't mind that. But considering how tough it is to do, if you learn it, then you get rewarded for it, which I kind of respect. But it is annoying if you encounter anyone who actually bothered to learn it, like one of the 3 people who did. It was a frame perfect block basically. The rolls I don't like, and I'm only just starting to do them now. I mean, it's to get out of corners and stuff, but it's just annoying. I feel like the wake up attacks were enough, right? I don't think you should have like an off-screen roll. Personally, it doesn't particularly bother me. I think that was fine to keep. I think it is an MK12. That's whatever. But yeah, fatal blows are better than extras because you know I think it makes for intense like final games at least. But yeah. I really do like that game in core gameplay sense. I just think it failed with all the lack of cycle, and I think MK12 will be the same issue, except I won't like the gameplay. I think the gameplay is fundamentally inferior. I really don't see what it's improving. People are saying, "Oh, combos are back." What do you mean? When did they leave for one? If you're referring to underwhelming combos, because if MK11 has underwhelming combos, this game does too. Right? Just because the damage is fucking broken doesn't mean these combos are anything exciting, because they're not. At the end of the day, I just think it's unfortunate. Because like, okay, this is a game I might get second hand, which I need to get into why I do that in another video, because now it's scummy. But at least it's because his fatalities seem to be like less over the top and ultra realistic. They still are, but not to the extent of 11. I hope they stop doing their shady practices with like filming fucking like footage of crime scenes like after death is PTSD. That's one reason I won't support them again. But yeah, I'm just not interested. I don't know when we'll get more news. But I'm sure I'll cover it when we do if I care. For now, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.